Meanwhile, tensions with Venezuela continue to escalate, with President Trump now saying he is ordering a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers both leaving and entering Venezuela. We're going to break that down in just a second. But first, new video from the Department of Defense. Just this week, the U.S. struck 3 more boats in the Eastern Pacific, killing 8 people. That brings the total number of deaths from these strikes all the way to at least 95 that we know of. But while we've got evidence of this strike, we still have not seen the video of that controversial second boat strike in the Caribbean that killed 2 survivors of an initial U.S. bombing back in September. And today, after growing demand, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this.
In keeping with long-standing Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top-secret, full, unedited video of that to the general public.
And joining us now is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Melanie, this post is sending a lot of people scrambling. I imagine this is going to be hotly debated in Congress, right?
Yeah, and it comes already as there's this heated debate on Capitol Hill about congressional war powers and whether Congress needs to approve any additional strikes or escalations in Venezuela, something that the Trump administration has not been doing. And of course, obviously, this also comes on the heels of last week when the administration already seized an oil tanker off of the coast of Venezuela. So this latest move is clearly an escalation. It's going to up pressure on the Maduro regime, potentially threaten their economy, which is already struggling. And so for Republicans who are already uncomfortable with some of the actions in Venezuela or who don't have a clear picture of the end game, despite being briefed multiple times, including today, of what the end game is in Venezuela, this could lead to some really uncomfortable questions for the administration. And there are more and more Republicans who have been willing to speak out, who have been willing to stand up to the administration and say, hey, we want some more read-in here. We want some more information. We want to know exactly what the justification is, what the ramifications are. And so I think all of that is just going to add to this ongoing conversation on Capitol Hill.
And instead, a lot of lawmakers, I mean, they're probably seeing the news like we are, where it's posted on social media. I do want to start with the video, though, or talk a little bit about the video that it sounds like will not be released, and maybe it's raw entirety. And then there are questions on whether the public's ever going to see it. I know we've got senators on different sides of the aisle talking about it. Let's play that real fast before we chat.
Obviously, they have issues with what is in that video, and that's why they don't want everybody to see it. What we also need is open hearings so the American public can learn about this directly from the people that they employ.
The least of my concerns is this friggin' video. Release it, make your own decisions. This is lawful.
So, question, is this video going to be released in any form, maybe with redactions, maybe with censoring, or is this video never going to be made public?
Well, it doesn't sound like it's going to be made public, and Congress can't force the Trump administration to do that. However, they can force the Trump administration to turn over this video to Congress, and that's exactly what they're doing. They actually tucked language into an annual defense policy bill that said they would essentially cut the travel budget for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth if they don't turn over that unedited video of the September 2nd strikes. That bill already passed the House. It is on track to pass the Senate this week, so potentially we could see some movement there. Meanwhile, we're also hearing that both the House and Senate Armed Services Committees are set to receive briefings tomorrow with Admiral Bradley, and he is expected to show them the video. So there is a small circle on Capitol Hill that is being shown this video, but the full Congress has not seen it yet. Many lawmakers, including on the Republican side, said they want to see that video. They deserve to see that video. So potentially after this national defense bill passes, they could get a copy of that footage themselves.
And again, this is a video from September 2nd. We have seen strike after strike after strike, including in the last few days here. As for the ongoing strike, let's take a listen to what Senator Schumer had to say a little bit earlier.
Their policies in the Caribbean are unclear. We don't know what the limits are. We don't know where they'll stop. We don't know what the ultimate goal is. The president says different things at different times and contradicts himself. That's why we need full transparency.
And important to note, that was before the news that we just got on the blockade, right? So what kind of role could we see Congress play as the strikes continue, or is Congress getting pretty bypassed here?
Well, Democrats are trying to force votes in both the House and the Senate this week on something known as war power resolutions. And those resolutions would essentially require congressional approval for Trump to take any additional military action in Venezuela. Now, these resolutions do have bipartisan support, but not nearly enough to pass, at least in the Senate, and certainly not enough to actually overcome a presidential veto. That being said, though, there are more and more Republicans who are growing uncomfortable with the actions in Venezuela. We'll see how this latest announcement with the oil tankers and the blockade adds to that uncomfortability among Republicans. And so if Trump continues to escalate without getting congressional buy-in, potentially we could see more Republicans siding with Democrats on those war powers resolutions.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.